Hi, I'm George, TSG's Open Content Product Manager. In this short demo, I'm going to demonstrate how to configure a search application using Open Content Admin. So here I am in Open Content Admin, and this is just a kind of out of the box, fresh after install config. And I'm in the application config, which has some high level configurations in here. But I'm going to go ahead and just for the header, we're going to add in search. And I think that's all we need to do in this config, so I'm just going to save it. Then we're going to go to the object type config, which allows us to expose certain object types from the repository to OCMS. So for this, we're just going to configure one of these. I'm just going to go ahead and add this quality document type, but you can add anything from the Alfresco repository in here, or whatever the backend repository is. So in here, basically this lets me configure the attributes that are exposed. Most of the time you'd include them all and potentially just change a label if you want. Certain fields that are dates, you can choose whether to say that they're date or date time. But for these, I'll just accept the defaults and go ahead and save. So then I'm going to head over to the forms section and I'm going to go ahead and create my search form. So I don't have any forms in here, so I'll just add a new one. We'll call this quality doc search. Go ahead and create that form. And then now I'm going to set up the form for quality documents. And here it's going to allow me to add whatever attributes I want. So for this one, I'm going to add the doc number. And let's see, we'll add title and status. Then we'll add some dates. So we'll add approved date, effective date, modified date, a obsolete date, and periodic review date. So we'll just say this is fine for now. One thing with this form that we can do is we can choose that certain fields are hidden from the user by default. So that's the secondary. So we'll just go ahead and pull a few of these down to the secondary section and go from there. We can choose the control type for these, so you can choose from lots of different options. For now, we'll just say these are fine, although status would typically be something like an autocomplete that's backed by a pick list. And then for these dates, we'll go ahead and say that they're date boxes. Maybe we'll pull modified date down here as well. These options allow you to have different things. So for text boxes, you can control regex patterns, character lengths, different kinds of things like that. And then for the dates, you can do things like, can the user type in a date, if it has to be earlier or later than today, that sort of thing. We can also make some of these what we call a proximity date, which we're going to do for the approved and effective dates, just so we can see the difference between a proximity date and a regular date box. So I'll go ahead and save this here. And then now that we have our form, we're going to go ahead and actually create our search config. So I'll add a quality doc search. And it automatically selects this form just because there's only one. But there's a lot of different options here. Quick search is the full text search. I'm going to go ahead and enable save search. And then we have different search modules here. I'm going to start out with attribute search. Basically, this just lets me configure which attribute it is sorted by, which we're going to use document number and the sort order. And then we're going to go to search results. And then this is where I can configure the actual results table and how they look. So we're going to display an object icon, which will show the format. And now we're going to configure for a quality document. We can choose whether or not thumbnails come back. We're going to sort repeating attributes. We're going to allow a reset button. This object title is which column that is coming back is going to be clickable. So we'll just select document number. Syndicator icons lets us display certain icons next to properties depending on values. So a very common one is showing a lock and key depending on if the object's checked out. So we'll go ahead and just do that. In this simple view, instead of going to our stage, which is our case management view, we're just going to stream the document. And then this is where I can choose which fields come back. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull over a couple. We'll say approve date we want to see, the, let's see, obviously the doc number, effective date, modified date, the obsolete date, periodic review date, the status, version label, and title. So now over here, we can choose which fields are hidden by default or visible. So we'll just pull a few of these down into the hidden fields, and we'll rearrange these. So we want to see doc number, version label, and status first. Then we can configure certain actions that should appear when you right click. So we'll just add a few. I'll add, let's see, open in new tab and view properties, which I don't have a view properties form, but we'll just go ahead and let it use the search form. So we'll say it's modal. We have some other options here. Go ahead and save. So we can also configure group actions. So we'll go ahead here and configure some group actions. We'll just say we want to allow the user to open multiple in new tab, download a zip, and export the search results to Excel. And we'll just set some options on these. I don't think there's anything we need to set here. So we'll just go ahead and save. So now we need to configure a track. So I'll go ahead and add a quality doc track. And in here, we can give it a name and say that we're using our quality document. This is how we segment certain documents or document types into a particular track. And we'll select our search config. So now I'm going to head over to the search to actually see my configurations. So once the search loads with the new configs, we can see the search that we set up. So the values that I selected as primary in the form appear here in the particular order. We have our 3 text boxes, and our proximity dates, instead of being date ranges, are in proximity to today. And then below the fold, we see our other fields that we set up here. And I'm just going to go ahead and run a search for documents with TSG as the doc number. And here's our table that we set up. So the order that we said, as well as certain fields that were hidden by default. And if we go ahead and click any of these, since we said stream, it's just going to open the document in a new tab. So let's just say business rules change. Maybe say title isn't something that users search on very often, and we found that maybe users want to search by modified date more often. They don't want to click this more fields section here. So let's just go into the admin, and we're going to modify our search form. And we'll go ahead and take title, and we'll drag it down here. And we're going to take modify date, move it up here. And instead of a date box, we'll make it a proximity date search. Go ahead and save. Now we'll head back to search. So now once the search form loads with our latest configurations, we can see that title is no longer listed here. It's now down here in the more fields section. Modified date is up here as a proximity date search. And we did that without any code updates or redeployments or system downtime. Well, that's it for this short demo. Check out our blog and website for more information about the Open Content Management Suite. Thanks for watching.